The ice cores stretched endlessly before them, each one telling a story of Earth's abandoned past. Dr. Blue's antennae twitched as he studied the readings on his scanner. Something was different about this section of the Arctic ice. Something that shouldn't be there. "Captain, you need to see this," he called out, his mandibles clicking with excitement. The tall, insectoid scientist turned to face his superior, who trudged through the snow toward him. The research vessel Starweaver floated silently above them, its dark hull blocking out the pale Arctic sun. They had been studying Earth's remains for 3 weeks now, trying to understand why the humans had abandoned their homeworld 3 centuries ago. Most believed it was simple environmental collapse, but Dr. Blue had always suspected there was more to the story. "What is it?" Captain Root asked, his thick protective suit making his already imposing frame look even larger. "Another plastic deposit." "No, sir. Metal. Advanced alloys." And Dr. Blue paused, double-checking his readings. "Power signatures." The captain's head snapped up. "Impossible. Nothing's had power on this rock for centuries." But the readings didn't lie. Beneath 30 meters of ice lay something that hummed with energy, defying 300 years of abandonment. The captain immediately called in the excavation team. They worked carefully, cutting through the ancient ice with precision tools. Hour after hour, they descended deeper into the frozen earth. Dr. Blue barely noticed the cold anymore, his attention fixed on the growing energy readings. Whatever lay below them was beginning to wake up. "Breakthrough!" one of the excavation team shouted. The ice had finally yielded its secret. Dr. Blue rushed forward, his heart pounding. There, embedded in the ice wall, was a metal chamber. Its surface gleamed as if it had been forged yesterday, showing no signs of the centuries it had spent buried in the ice. Smooth lines of blue light pulsed along its surface, forming patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. "This is impossible," Captain Root muttered. Human technology was primitive. They barely achieved basic spaceflight before they fled. But Dr. Blue wasn't so sure anymore. The chamber before them spoke of advancement far beyond what their historical records showed. He approached carefully, his scanner working overtime to analyze the unknown alloys and energy signatures. "There's something inside," he announced, studying the readings. "A preservation pod of some kind." And his voice trailed off as he processed the next set of data. Life signs, stable life signs. The excavation team backed away instinctively. Captain Root stepped forward, his protective mask hiding his expression. "You're saying there's a living human in there, after all this time?" "Yes, sir," in perfect suspended animation. "The technology. It's far more advanced than anything we thought humans capable of. The power source alone is beyond our current understanding." The captain was quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. "Can we open it?" Dr. Blue's antennae twitched nervously. "We can. The system appears to be responding to our presence. But, sir, the safety protocols were written assuming human technology was primitive," the captain finished. "Clearly, we were wrong about that. Open it, Doctor. Let's see what other assumptions we've made about humanity were incorrect." Dr. Blue approached the chamber, his 6-fingered hands hovering over the pulsing lights. The pattern seemed to dance under his touch, responding to some unspoken command. With a soft hiss, the chamber's surface began to shift and change. As the metal pulled back, revealing the glass beneath, they got their first look at the human inside. A male, tall for his species, dressed in what appeared to be some kind of military uniform. His vital signs remained strong and stable, defying 3 centuries of time. "Begin revival procedures," Captain Root ordered. As Dr. Blue started the process, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to change the course of history. He just wasn't sure if it would be for better or worse. Little did they know, they had just started a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of their understanding of humanity. The sleeping giant they were about to wake had been placed there for a reason, and that reason would soon become terrifyingly clear. The medical bay of the Starweaver hummed with activity as Dr. Blue carefully monitored the revival process. The preservation chamber, now connected to their most advanced medical equipment, continued its work with an efficiency that made their own technology seem crude in comparison. "Vital signs are strengthening," Dr. Blue announced, watching the displays with all four of his eyes. "Brain activity increasing. The revival process is working exactly as the chamber's systems specified." Captain Root stood at the back of the room, surrounded by armed security officers. Despite his calm exterior, there was tension in his posture. None of them had ever seen a living human before, and the captain wasn't taking any chances. The chamber's soft blue glow began to pulse faster, matching the increasing heartbeat of its occupant. Steam hissed from vents as the temperature slowly rose to normal human levels. Then, without warning, the man's eyes snapped open. Everyone in the room froze. The human's eyes were a striking blue, alert, and focused in a way that seemed impossible for someone who had just spent centuries in suspended animation. He blinked once, twice, then calmly sat up. "Good morning," he said in a deep, steady voice. "I am Commander Jack Stone." His eyes scanned the room, taking in the alien forms around him with surprising composure. "I assume, given your appearance, that this is not a standard revival." Dr. Blue stepped forward cautiously. "Commander Stone, I am Dr. Blue. You are aboard the research vessel Starweaver. We found your preservation chamber in Earth's Arctic region. You have been in suspended animation for approximately 300 years. Jack nodded, as if this information was exactly what he had expected to hear. He swung his legs over the side of the chamber, his movements smooth and controlled. "Earth status. Abandoned," Captain Root spoke up from the back. "Humanity left the planet 3 centuries ago due to environmental collapse. We are a research team studying the remains." "I see." Jack stood up, causing several security officers to raise their weapons. He ignored them, stretching his muscles as if waking from a short nap rather than centuries of sleep. "And humanity's current location?" "Unknown," Dr. Blue answered, fascinated by the human's calm demeanor. "All records indicate they fled into deep space, but their destination was never discovered." Jack walked over to one of the medical monitors, studying it with interest. The machine suddenly sparked and crumpled under his grip, causing everyone to jump back. "Apologies," he said, releasing the crushed metal. "My strength always needs recalibration after stasis." Dr. Blue's antennae twitched rapidly. The monitor had been made of reinforced metal alloy. No normal human should have been able to crush it like paper. "Commander Stone, what exactly was your role before preservation?" Jack turned to face them fully, his presence somehow filling the room. "I commanded a special operations unit. We were part of a classified program called Project Sentinel. My preservation was not an accident or a desperate measure during the evacuation. I was placed there deliberately, as a failsafe." "A failsafe for what?" Captain Root demanded. "That depends entirely on what I find when I complete my mission assessment." Jack's eyes focused on the captain. "I'll need access to your historical databases and current star charts." "You are not in a position to make demands," the captain began, but stopped as Jack moved. One moment the human was beside the chamber. The next he stood directly in front of the captain, moving faster than their eyes could track. "I am always in a position to make demands," Jack said quietly, "but I prefer to be polite first. Shall we discuss this like civilized beings?" The security team's weapons trembled slightly in their hands. Dr. Blue, watching from his station, realized with growing unease that they hadn't awakened a simple human survivor. They had revived something far more significant and potentially far more dangerous. The question was no longer about what they had found in the ice. It was about what had found them. In the ship's main information center, Jack Stone stood perfectly still as he absorbed the historical records scrolling across the large display screen. His face showed no emotion as he read about Earth's final days, but his hands gripped the console's edges slightly tighter with each passing minute. Dr. Blue watched nervously as tiny dents formed in the metal under Jack's fingers. Commander Stone, perhaps we should take a break. This must be difficult information to process. No need, Doctor, Jack replied without looking away from the screen. Though I admit, the speed of Earth's collapse was unexpected. 300 years of history to review, and humanity's exodus took less than a month. The screen showed images of the Great Evacuation, countless ships leaving Earth's atmosphere, carrying billions to an unknown destination. What caught Dr. Blue's attention was how Jack studied not the ships themselves, but the stars visible in the backgrounds of the images. You're mapping their course, Dr. Blue realized aloud. Jack nodded. The evacuation wasn't panic. It was planned. Coordinated. He finally turned from the screen. Your people really believe humans were primitive. Before Dr. Blue could answer, the information center's door slid open. 4 heavily armed security officers entered, led by Captain Root. That's enough research, the captain announced. Commander Stone, you will return to the medical bay for further observation. Jack's eyes narrowed slightly. No, this is not a request. The captain raised his hand, and the security team aimed their weapons. We've reviewed the data from your revival. Your enhanced capabilities make you a potential threat to this vessel. Potential. Jack's mouth curved into a small smile. Captain, if I were a threat to your vessel, we wouldn't be having this conversation. As he spoke, he casually reached out and touched one of the nearby computer terminals. The screen flickered, then went dark. Throughout the ship, lights dimmed for a split second. When they came back up, every screen in the information center displayed the same message. Security protocols overridden. How did you? Dr. Blue started. Project Sentinel wasn't just about physical enhancement, Jack explained, still perfectly calm. We were designed to interface with any technology. Your ship's systems are quite basic compared to what I'm used to. Captain Root's face darkened with anger. Open fire. The security team pulled their triggers, but their weapons remained silent. Jack held up his hand, showing a small glowing device. Looking for your weapon's power cells. The moment I accessed your ship's systems, I learned everything about your technology, including how easy it is to remotely deactivate. What do you want? The captain demanded. The same thing I wanted 5 minutes ago. Information. Jack turned back to the main screen, which now showed a star map. Humanity didn't just flee Earth, Captain. They left coordinates, hidden in plain sight, in the evacuation patterns themselves. Coordinates that only a sentinel would recognize. Dr. Blue's scientific curiosity overcame his fear. What do these coordinates show? The location of humanity's new empire. Jack's fingers danced across the console, and new images appeared, calculations, trajectories, and patterns that made Dr. Blue's head spin. An empire that has spent 3 centuries growing, expanding, and preparing. Preparing for what? Captain Root asked, his voice hoarse. For the moment when a sentinel awakened, Jack straightened up, his full height suddenly seeming much more imposing. You thought you found a relic of a dead civilization. Instead, you've activated humanity's failsafe. And now, Captain, you have a choice to make. The room fell silent as Jack turned to face them fully. You can either help me reach these coordinates, or... He let the sentence hang unfinished, but the implication was clear. Dr. Blue looked at the captain, then back at Jack. In the space of a few hours, everything they thought they knew about humanity had been proven wrong. And somehow, he suspected, this was only the beginning. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the Starweaver as Captain Root's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. All hands, security alert. The human subject has escaped containment. He is to be considered extremely dangerous. All crew members are ordered to. The announcement cut off abruptly, replaced by static. In the ship's control room, the captain slammed his fist on the console. He's in the communication systems now. Sir, a crew member called out. We've lost contact with security teams 3 and 4. In the darkness of the ship's lower maintenance tunnels, Dr. Blue moved carefully, his antennae twitching at every sound. He had seen the security footage before Jack disabled the cameras. The human hadn't hurt any of the security teams. He had simply disarmed them with impossible speed and locked them in storage rooms. Doctor. Jack's voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once, making Dr. Blue freeze. You should return to your lab. This doesn't have to involve you. You're using the ship's internal speakers. Dr. Blue realized, his scientific mind still analyzing even in his fear. You've taken control of all ship systems. Most of them. Jack's voice had a hint of amusement now. Your captain's emergency protocols are interesting, but primitive, like putting a lock on a paper door. Above them, the ship's lights flickered again. Dr. Blue heard shouting from an adjacent corridor, followed by the sound of weapons clattering to the floor. Then silence. That's Team 5 down, Jack's voice announced calmly. Your security forces are well-trained, Doctor, but they're trained to fight enemies they understand. They don't understand me. A shadow moved at the end of the corridor. Dr. Blue turned to run, but found Jack standing behind him, appearing as if from thin air. How? Dr. Blue's voice trailed off. Enhanced speed, strength, reflexes, Jack explained casually. But more importantly, enhanced thinking. Your crew moves like pieces on a game board, following standard procedures. I can see their patterns before they make them. The ship's intercom crackled again with the captain's voice. All hands, fall back to the bridge. Seal all bulkheads. We'll trap him in the lower levels. Jack smiled slightly. The captain still thinks in terms of physical barriers. He turned to Dr. Blue. Would you like to see something interesting, Doctor? Before Dr. Blue could respond, Jack placed his hand on a nearby wall panel. The metal seemed to ripple under his touch, and suddenly displays of light danced in the air around them, showing the ship's entire internal layout. Hundreds of crew members were represented by moving dots, all rushing toward the bridge. Watch, Jack said. He moved his fingers through the light display, and throughout the ship, doors began closing in specific patterns. Within seconds, the entire crew had been carefully herded into safe containment areas, separated from each other but unharmed. Beautiful, isn't it? Jack asked, genuinely appreciating the elegance of his own strategy. Your entire security force, neutralized without a single injury. This is how Sentinels work, Doctor. Not through brute force, but through perfect control of the battlefield. Dr. Blue stared at the display, mesmerized. The legends of human warfare. They all focused on violence, on destruction. But this is true power, Jack finished. Violence is a last resort. Control is everything. He waved his hand, and the display vanished. Now shall we visit your captain? I believe he's alone on the bridge, preparing to vent the ship's atmosphere in a last desperate attempt to stop me. He wouldn't, Dr. Blue gasped. He would, and that's why I had to do this. Jack gestured at the ship around them. Sometimes, to save people from themselves, you have to take away their ability to make dangerous choices. Together, they began walking toward the bridge, where the final confrontation awaited. Dr. Blue realized that they hadn't been hunting Jack at all. He had been carefully, methodically, herding them exactly where he wanted them to go. The bridge of the Starweaver was eerily quiet when Jack and Dr. Blue arrived. Captain Root stood alone at the main control console, his hands hovering over the emergency controls. Step away from the console, Captain, Jack said quietly. We both know you won't really vent the atmosphere. You're not the type to sacrifice your crew. The captain's shoulders slumped slightly. How did you know? Because I've read every decision you've made as captain. Every log entry. Every crew evaluation. Jack walked to the main view screen, bringing it to life with a touch. You care about your people. That's good. We can work with that. Stars filled the massive screen, and Jack began manipulating the display. Different sectors of space lit up, forming patterns that Dr. Blue had never seen before. What you're seeing, Jack explained, is the true map of human space. We didn't flee Earth in panic. We expanded. Systematically. Carefully. In secret. The map zoomed out, revealing hundreds, then thousands of star systems, all interconnected by lines of light. Captain Root stared in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. Our deep space scans never detected any of this. Because we didn't want you to. Jack's fingers danced across the controls, showing more details. These are human colonies. These are military bases. These are research stations. And these, he highlighted a series of seemingly empty sectors, are our shipyards. Dr. Blue moved closer to the screen, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his caution. All this time, humans have been out there, building an empire. Not building, Jack corrected. Built. What you're seeing is 3 centuries of careful expansion. While the galaxy thought we had flowed in desperation, we were actually executing the largest military and colonial operation in history. The captain found his voice again. Why? Why the deception? Because humanity learned something important from Earth's near destruction, Jack said, his voice growing serious. We learned that sometimes the only way to protect something is to step back. Watch. Prepare. New images appeared on the screen. Massive ships unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, cities that sprawled across entire moons, defense systems that made their most advanced weapons look like toys. My preservation wasn't an accident or a desperate measure, Jack continued. I am one of many sentinels, placed strategically across the galaxy. We watch, we wait, and when the time comes, we act. Act for what? Dr. Blue asked. To protect humanity's interests, to guide the galaxy's development, to prevent the same mistakes that nearly destroyed Earth. Jack turned to face them fully. Your discovery of my chamber wasn't an accident either. Humanity has been watching your civilization develop. You're ready for contact. The captain's eyes widened. Contact. Yes. Your people have reached a crucial stage of development. You're expanding, exploring, but you haven't yet developed the technologies that could threaten galactic stability. Jack smiled slightly. My awakening is your invitation to join the human commonwealth. Dr. Blue's antennae twitched rapidly as he processed this information. All this time, we thought we were studying the remains of a dead civilization, when in fact, you were being studied yourselves, Jack finished. The ruins on Earth, carefully maintained to present the image we wanted you to see. The primitive technology you found, placed there deliberately. He touched the console one final time, and a new signal appeared on the screen. A powerful transmission heading into deep space. What did you just do? The captain asked. Sent the alert that every sentinel is trained to send upon awakening. Jack's voice carried the weight of centuries of planning. To quote the old human phrase, the eagle has landed. Within hours, the first human diplomatic fleet will arrive. Your world's isolation is over, Captain. Welcome to the larger galaxy. The bridge fell silent as they all stared at the map of human space, each contemplating how completely their understanding of the galaxy had just changed. 3 hours had passed since Jack's transmission, and the atmosphere on the Starweaver's bridge had changed completely. Captain Root sat in his command chair, watching as Jack worked at the main console, upgrading their systems with casual ease. Your shift shields are now 40% more efficient, Jack announced, his fingers dancing across the controls. I also optimized your sensor array. You'll be able to see the diplomatic fleet when it arrives. Dr. Blue stood nearby, taking notes frantically as he watched Jack work. The way you interface with our technology, it's beyond anything we thought possible. Actually, it's quite simple, Jack replied, not looking up from his work. Your systems are based on the same fundamental principles we discovered centuries ago. You just took a different development path. A young crew member rushed onto the bridge. Captain, the security teams, they're all free. Every locked door just opened on its own. Yes, Jack said calmly. I released them. They've been confined long enough to understand the situation. He finally turned from the console. Captain, would you like to address your crew? They must have questions. Captain Root nodded slowly, still adjusting to this new reality where he both was and wasn't in command of his own ship. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "This is your captain speaking," he began, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "By now, you've all heard rumors about what's happening. The truth is more extraordinary than any rumor. We stand at a historic moment. Humanity." He paused, looking at Jack, who nodded encouragingly. "Humanity never fell. They never fled in defeat. They have been out there, building, growing, waiting, and now they have chosen us for first contact." Throughout the ship, crew members gathered around communication stations, listening intently. Jack moved to stand beside the captain's chair, his presence somehow both reassuring and intimidating. "The human in our midst," the captain continued, "is not our prisoner, nor our enemy. He is a sentinel, an envoy of the human empire, and he has upgraded our ship's systems as a gesture of good faith. I am ordering all crew members to return to normal duties. Treat our guest with respect. That is all." As the announcement ended, the ship's sensors suddenly came alive. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The sensor operator announced, their voice filled with awe. They're huge." The main view screen activated, showing what lay before them. 5 massive ships had appeared, their sleek designs unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They moved with impossible grace for their size, taking up formation around the Starweaver. "That," Jack said with a small smile, "is actually a small diplomatic group. You should see our military fleets." The largest ship, easily 10 times the size of the Starweaver, opened a communication channel. The bridge crew held their breath, expecting to see more humans. Instead, they saw familiar faces, members of their own species. "Greetings, Starweaver," the alien commander said. "We are representatives of the Joint Species Council, serving under human authority. We're here to welcome you to the greater galactic community." Dr. Blue's antennae twitched in surprise. "Our own people, already working with humans. Did you think you were the first species we've made contact with?" Jack asked. "Humanity has been guiding the development of dozens of civilizations, each one carefully chosen, contacted when ready. Your discovery of my chamber wasn't an accident. It was your test, and you passed." Captain Root stood from his chair, straightening his uniform. "What happens now?" "Now," Jack said, "you join something greater than yourself. Your science, your culture, your people, all of it will be preserved and enhanced. The only thing that ends today is your solitude." The bridge crew watched in amazement as more ships began appearing, vessels of different designs, clearly from various species, all working together under the banner of human leadership. The age of isolation was over. A new chapter was beginning. The Starweaver's observation deck offered a breathtaking view of the assembled fleet. Ships of various designs and sizes floated in perfect formation, their lights twinkling against the backdrop of stars. Dr. Blue stood beside Jack, watching as shuttles moved between vessels, carrying diplomatic teams and technical advisors. "I still can't believe the scale of it all," Dr. Blue said, his antennae moving gently in thought. "Humans have been guiding us, watching us, all this time." "We learned from our mistakes," Jack replied, his eyes tracking the movement of ships. "Earth's near destruction taught us that advancement without guidance leads to chaos, so we became the guides." Captain Root approached them, holding a data pad displaying the preliminary agreements between their civilization and the human commonwealth. "The Council of Elders has accepted the initial terms. They're quite generous. Humanity doesn't seek subjects or servants," Jack explained. "We want partners, allies. Each species brings something unique to our collective knowledge." He turned to Dr. Blue. "Your people's achievements in biological sciences, for instance, are remarkable. Different from our approach, but valuable. A flash of light caught their attention as another ship emerged from faster-than-light travel. This one was different, sleek, black, and unmistakably human in design. Its appearance made Jack smile. "Right on schedule," he said. The Sentinel command ship. The massive vessel took position above the fleet, its presence somehow both reassuring and awe-inspiring. Jack touched a nearby console, and a holographic display appeared in the air before them. "Watch," he said quietly. Across the galaxy, other Sentinels were awakening. Dots of light appeared on the holographic map, each representing another civilization being contacted, another species joining the human commonwealth. It was a carefully orchestrated dance that had been planned for centuries. "Your discovery of my chamber may have seemed random," Jack continued, "but it was part of a larger pattern. Today, dozens of civilizations are receiving the same invitation. The galaxy is changing." Dr. Blue's scientific curiosity got the better of him. "But why now? Why all at once?" "Because the galaxy is reaching a tipping point," Jack explained. "Too many advanced civilizations developing in isolation. The potential for conflict grows each day. So we're creating unity before chaos can take root." Captain Root studied the map thoughtfully. "And the other Sentinels? They're all like you. Each of us is different, specialized for the civilization we were assigned to watch. I was chosen for your people because my approach matched your cultural values. Direct but non-violent, firm but fair." The captain nodded slowly. "You could have taken the ship by force at any time, but you chose to demonstrate control without harm." "Exactly. True power isn't about destruction. It's about protection, guidance, and wisdom." Jack turned from the window to face them fully. "That's what humanity learned from our near extinction. That's what we've spent 3 centuries teaching others." A communication alert chimed softly. The Sentinel command ship was calling. Jack straightened slightly. "This is where we part ways for now," he said. "The Starweaver will receive upgrades, your crew will begin training with the Joint Fleet, and your world will start its integration into the Commonwealth." He held out his hand in the human gesture of friendship. "It has been an honor." Dr. Blue stepped forward. "I request permission to continue studying human technology. There's so much to learn." Jack smiled. "Granted. In fact, I recommended you specifically for the Joint Research Program. Your curiosity and adaptability are exactly what we look for in our partners." As Jack prepared to leave for the Sentinel command ship, he paused one last time. "Remember this day," he said. "This is how humanity chose to use its power. Not to conquer, but to unite. Not to destroy, but to build. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, but only together can we explore them safely." The captain and Dr. Blue watched as Jack departed, both understanding that they had witnessed not just first contact, but the beginning of a new era. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had evolved into something greater. And now, they were offering to help others do the same.